Namaste, welcome back. So I've just completed the sync timing step for this video. And when I'm done with the sync timing step, it means that all of the captions, there are no more captions to the right of the red line, so all of them have been placed on the timeline. At this point, we can click the Start Review button here, which ends the sync timing step. So we can even see here that we've got a summary that we've synced 44 out of 44 captions that we've created. So I click the Start Review button. Another thing I'll do is save my work. So I've just completed this step. I'd like to save my work in case something happens so I don't have to repeat this step again. So I click the Save Draft button, which brings up this Changes Saved dialog, and then I'll click Resume Editing. One more thing I'll point out right now is just that I'm using a Mac and I'm using Safari browser. I'm just saying that because if you're using a different platform and a different browser, the screen may look slightly different, the controls may look slightly different, the layout, there could be minor subtle differences. So I just wanted to say that in case that creates any confusion. So now that we're done with the sync timing step, this is the real work for me of captioning, is the review step. This is where we take our time to make changes and place the captions and time the captions such that we provide the most clarity and the greatest ease for the viewer of the captions. So I'll start, I think, by just having a look through the captions to see where I may want to make some adjustments in caption length or potentially in the way that captions are split over lines. So this is a place where you may choose to do this differently, and different people on the team will do this in very different ways, and that is really okay. So I'm just showing you one way to do things, and honestly, to tell you the truth, it may be that when I'm working on another video, I might do it a different way. So this very much is a SIVA that provides an opportunity to let go, to flow with the way that things are in this moment, to not feel restricted or constrained by any past way of being or any preconceptions or even what I'm telling you right now. So this is just meant to be a guide that hopefully helps you to feel comfortable in the SIVA, so that it's something that not only is a contribution that you're making, but also a contribution to yourself and your own set song. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to have a look through, and I'll point out some of the things that I look for as I look through the captions, and maybe do a little bit of work before I even start watching them again. So for example, one thing that catches my eye is this caption, which I'd pointed out in the first video, is 78 characters long. Now that's a bit long. As we state in the guidelines, which, by the way, we should have open while we're captioning so we can refer back to those guidelines as we have questions as we do this work. But a caption length sort of between, less than 60 characters, let's say, is an ideal length for a caption. So 78 is a bit of a stretch over that. So I feel like this caption is a bit too long potentially, but let's see what we can do. Now, what I will do is just have a listen for when this caption is spoken to see how the words are said, to see if there's a natural way to sort of break this caption into two. Now, if I just look at the caption and look at the sentence structure, the questioner says, just now there is something. I can see where I left a word out there. Just now there is something that feels very clear as you're speaking. Now there isn't really, that is a single phrase. Just now there is something that feels very clear as you're speaking. It would be difficult, honestly, to separate this into two captions, having a complete phrase in each caption. Now, one place we could split it is at the clause that begins with that. So we could have in one caption, just now there is something, and in a second caption we could have, that feels very clear as you're speaking. What I'm going to do instead for now is I'm going to break this caption over two lines, because another thing we point out in the guidelines is if the single line is more than 50 characters long, that is too long, and we should split that caption over two lines. So when I do this, I've got a single caption with 40 characters on each line that's 80 characters long. Honestly, that's really a bit close to the boundary, and I'll explain why that character count is too high. It's because in some languages, when we translate this caption, the language, languages like German, for example, the character count can be sometimes 20% longer than the character count in English. And in that case, the caption really may get too long for the screen for someone who's viewing the captions in that language. So my feeling about this one is that we really may have to break it into two lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a second caption, a space for a second caption here below this one. The way we do that is to mouse over the little wrench, and then you'll see these icons, and this is the one I want, insert subtitle below. And then I'm going to cut that line, and I'm going to paste it in the next caption. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is just to have a listen to this part to see how the syncing is. I can see that I've got a nice read rate in each one, but let's have a look at the syncing. So I'm going to press Tab to start the video from this point.
Just now, there's...
So I can see already that if I sync with the start of the question or speech, I really need to move it to the right. We're going to keep an eye on this read rate. We really want it to be below 15 characters per second, and if possible, much slower than that. So let's have a look.
Just now.
Now I can give that a bit more space because she actually starts speaking.
Just now, there's something that feels very clear as you're speaking.
Now to sync it, I need to move this quite a ways back. And we still have a reasonable read rate. Let's see how that's synced.
Just now, there's something that feels very clear as you're speaking.
Okay, so I'm going to see if I can edge it back just a little. Now I'm clicking between captions so that I can see the adjusted read rate. So when I make a change, you'll see it doesn't change the read rate. When I change the length of that caption, it doesn't show me the adjusted read rate until I click into another caption and then click back. So that is 13.7, which is okay. Now it's 14.2. Let's have a look at the syncing.
Just now, there's something that feels very clear as you're speaking. It would be...
Now she actually says it a little bit sooner, so I'm just going to move that back.
As you're speaking. It would be hard to give words to it because it's something...
It's beyond.
Okay, so because when I was doing the sync timing step, I was pausing, and I mentioned that it will cut the caption off where you pause it. I'm going to drag this one right up to the next caption. And the reason I do that is to give it plenty of space. So now the read rate for that caption is only 9.5 characters a second, which is good. But we notice that this line, it's on a single line and it's 60 characters. So we are going to separate this into two lines. So where should we separate it? So the phrase is, it would be hard to give words to it because it's something, for me, the natural place to break it is here. So this is the start of a new clause because it's something. Now, you'll notice there's some places where I probably need some punctuation, like here, because that completes the sentence. Just now there is something that feels very clear as you're speaking. As I notice those things when I go through the first time, I put them in, and I will miss things. And that's why we go back and review again. You'll find that when you're in this review step, that you'll review the video and the work you've done many times, and each time you look, you'll find something else that you'd like to change. So two things about that. One is that it's a reason to take some time to review and to review multiple times. But the other thing is that you could probably do that forever. So at some point, it's okay to let go and say, no, this is good. I'll hand it to the proofreader. And just remember, there's always going to be another set of eyes, another heart that looks at this work and may make some other adjustments. So there isn't a requirement to get it absolutely perfect, and it doesn't need to be a desire either. So you can just let go and let it flow. I encourage you to do that. Okay, so now I feel good about this caption. Let's have a listen and check the syncing of the next caption.
It would be hard to give words to it because it's something.
It's beyond the words, no?
Yes.
Okay, so here the yes is said right there, and if we actually made the caption that short, I feel it would be too short. So here's a case where I created a separate caption during syncing, but I'm actually going to combine it with the one above, because what we can do is use Shift Enter to create a second line in this caption and just paste in the questioner's yes here, and then we can use the little icon here to delete this space. Now, let's have a look.
Because it's something.
It's beyond the words, no?
Yes. But
so the but starts about here, and I'm going to fill this caption in up to here.
But just to, can I follow through a little more?
Please, I will not let you get away.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so this is a tricky section here because the speech is quite rapid and it goes between it's speech between the questioner and Mooji. So if we listen again.
But just to, can I follow through a little more?
Please, I will not let you get away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really, because I'm ready to run.
So I think what feels like something to try to me is if I look at this one, it's 39 characters. This one is 44 characters. I can't really put these together, even though this Mooji's speaking follows very rapidly after the questioner's question, but can I follow through for a moment? I can't really combine these because then I'm going to have a total of over 80 characters in a single caption, and that's just too much. So we're going to have to just play with it here. I also can't combine these two because it'll be too long. So now we have to make a choice about the way we negotiate the way that we put the captions on the screen. So if we look at this one, the read rate's 10, so I can move this back significantly. That made it 13.5. We'll move it back just a little bit more. That made it 14.5. Let's have a look at this.
But just to, can I follow through a little more?
Please, I will not let you get away.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, now this one's 14.1. We could actually bring this one back a little bit to sync it. Not that much. We want to keep the read rate below 15 if possible. Let's have a look at this.
But just to, Can I follow through a
Oh,
little more?
please, I will not let you get away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really, because I'm ready to run.
Now, there's some laughter that happens here. We don't really have room to indicate it though. So, what Mooji says here is funny. Please, I will not let you get away. And so the audience are laughing, and Mooji is smiling, and the questioner even laughs. But we don't really have room to put that indicator because we can see the read rate here is 14.8. So we don't want to compromise that. We could add it here. So we could put a laughter indicator with this line because there is some laughter happening there. Let's just have a listen.
Let you get away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really, because I'm ready to run.
So there is some, she laughs herself after she says it. So that just indicates to the watcher of the video, particularly some watcher who is hearing impaired, that there's laughter that's happening when this is said. So, so that's nice to be able to indicate. So you'll notice that I'll point out the red exclamation points here. And the reason we see those is because, as it says here in the notes box, line length shouldn't exceed 42 characters. This is sort of a warning from Amera, and it doesn't apply to our particular process. So as we state in the guidelines, a single line, it's best if it's under 50 characters, which these lines are. So so this is okay, and in this case you can sort of ignore that red exclamation point. It's not a concern. So I'm going to stop here for a moment, and I'm just going to start the way that I began, which is I can see there's some short captions here. I'm just going to look through at some of the areas that I know will be sort of problem areas. We've got some very long captions here, and let's have a look at some of those sections. So this is the next one that is too long for us. So it's 80 characters. We need to split this one into two captions or alter it in some way so that it's shorter. So this is where Mooji says, it is not a condition that must happen to say, aha, then now that means I. And if you remember from the first, when we were captioning this part, it isn't even exactly what Mooji says. I paraphrased it slightly. So let's just listen to it first to see if there's some other way we might put it, and also check
It is
this.
not a condition.
So he actually starts back here,
It is not a condition.
maybe a little bit further.
It is not a condition that must happen to say, aha, then that means now I, you see?
Then that, I'm just going to correct this while I'm seeing it. Then that means now is actually the order he says it in. Okay, now the sort of natural place to break it is here. And if we break it here into two captions, I can already, when I listen to it, I could see that he said this quite quickly after it happened, but still, when we're making these adjustments, we do place an importance on keeping grammatical units together. Having a caption have a complete phrase and not partial phrases whenever possible, because that really helps to clearly and easily convey the meaning of what's being said. So I think what I'm going to try is to insert another caption below, and I'm going to cut that text and paste it into this next frame. So now I've got two frames with a nice number of characters, about 40 characters each. Let's check the syncing.
It is not a condition that must happen to say, ah.
So to say happens back here. We still have a good read rate, and we've evened it out a bit. Let's have a look.
that must happen to say, aha, then
maybe slightly further.
that must happen to say, aha, then that means now you see, this is prior to everything.
Okay, so that looks pretty nice, and look at that. Sometimes it just works that way. Look at that, 11.2 characters per second for both of them. So yeah, that's a nice result. And if we, it felt okay to me as I watched it on the screen while I was listening. So that is a nice compromise for that one. So I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, and I'll point out this line. So this line, even though it's 51 characters, my feeling is to leave it on a single line because it's only one character over, and it's very nice to have this on a single line, I think. So I'm going to leave that one alone for the moment. The next line, the next caption, however, has 75 characters, and that's just a bit too many for a single caption. So let's have a look at this one and listen to it. Now, when I just look at it, it says, when it is recognized in one body, an expression such as aha may happen. So the natural place for me to want to split it is here at the comma. But let's just have a listen first to see how it appears on the screen.
Healing. When it is,
I'm going to bring it back just slightly.
when it is recognized in one body, an expression such as aha may happen.
So there is actually a very nice pause there after the comma. So that's what we'll do. We'll insert a space for a new caption. We will cut this phrase and paste it into the next caption. Nice low read rates here, and we'll probably have to adjust when it starts. So let's just have a listen and see when he says that.
One body.
So it looks like about here. Let's have a look.
Body. An expression such as aha may happen.
So that worked out very nicely. We've got nice read rates for each of these captions, and we've managed to keep clauses intact. So that is a good result. Let's look at this next long line. Now this one is 56 characters. That's a bit over. So in this case, I think I would split this caption over two lines. So the caption says, but it will take place at that threshold of recognition. For me, I would split it here because this is the start of a prepositional clause. So at is a preposition. That's the start of a prepositional clause, and that's a natural place to break it over two lines for me. So we'll leave that one for the moment. And this one, I just want to point out, this line looks okay. The read rate is a bit off, but we'll probably have to adjust all of these a little bit anyway. So don't worry too much about read rate on its own if you look through this way that I'm doing. We'll have to go back and actually sync the captions. They won't be synced properly at the moment until we do that. So right now I'm just sort of going through and looking at the length of captions and seeing where I can tell that I'm going to have to split captions over two lines or create multiple captions where there's one. What I want to point out here, though, is the use of the laughter indicator on the same line of text. And the reason I did that is because we're still under 50 characters, and so it's okay to put that laughter indicator right after what is said.